Hey everyone, welcome back to a sunny summer episode of the PetaPixel Podcast. Jaron, it better be sunny where you're at, right?
It is. Not that you could tell.
Perfect.
Yeah,
the sunny summer.
Zero context, Jordan.
No windows in any of the
Indoors.
rooms. I think all of us are in basements.
Yeah, people just need to know where the vibe is coming from. We look outside, we see birds playing. Do birds play, or do they just kind of fly around?
They
do
they
play.
Okay, great.
Your hatred for corvids is inappropriate.
I didn't single out any birds there. Chris, who is bringing up my malice towards all corvids, especially crows and ravens. That's Chris Nichols there.
Yeah. Hi.
And
Doesn't like...
in sunny Portland, which it's well known for, is my buddy Jaron Schneider.
It's like high 80s, like in Fahrenheit. So what is that in Celsius? Like
death.
If
it was
30s?
80 degrees Celsius, we'd be dead.
Low 30s, right?
Heat stroke and dead.
In the 30s somewhere, like 32, 31?
I don't know.
No.
I don't.
No,
but
80s,
if I embrace this conversion,
29.
I would be accepting your units of measurement. So I'm not going to commit them to
20s.
memory.
Come on.
Okay.
Well, it's very nice. So thank you for checking.
Of course. And you know what? Last week we had a massive show with Gordon, so we weren't able to do any tech support, any never read the comments, not even a feel-good story of the day. So we got a little bit of picking up to do this week, but as well, gang, we're going shopping, right?
Yes.
I hope so.
With fake money.
No, with
Monopoly.
With Monopoly money, but we'll actually get them. We're gonna go look and we're doing fixed lenses, right, Jordan? That's the plan.
Yeah. So the idea with this, just to restrict ourselves a little bit, is so many people are looking for fixed lens camera options. That's very trendy right now. A lot of people looking for ones with a built-in flash as well. So we're not going to restrict ourselves to a very specific set of rules, but we're going fixed lens camera shopping today. We're going to find out
compact digitals. Yes.
We're going to pick one that we would like to either revisit or use for the first time. And then stay tuned, because this podcast is a preview where we're going to make our picks. But following that up, we'll have a separate full episode of the PetaPixel Show where we will test these out and give you our feedback after using them in the real world. So this is a part one. Get excited, everyone. This is going to be a massive... I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. So let's just jump right to the question.
We're so good at this.
Yeah, top tier.
Gang, we're going shopping. So I want to know, what's your favorite place to shop?
Like in person?
Yeah, or online. Like if you're just like, you know what? I feel like treating myself today.
Somebody say Amazon.
Yeah, everyone loves your former overlords, Amazon.
I really like how they handle...
I still use them all the time.
Yeah, layoffs over there. Yeah.
You know, if you need like rod holders for your boat at 4 a.m, Amazon. Fantastic.
Right.
But no, I don't know. Favorite place to go shopping? In what context? Like to make you feel better or to survive?
So here's the thing. Back when we were traveling a little less frequently, every trip, Chris would go do some shopping for his family. And he clearly enjoyed it because it took a long time.
Yeah, shopping's great.
Yeah, exactly. I know you love it. So I want to know, like, where is your favorite place to shop, Chris?
But see, that's different, Jordan, because that's traveling. You want to bring nice things back home for your family. That comes from a spirit of generosity and wanting them to be part of the travel experience that they're missing out on.
I thought this was shopping, such a simple question.
No, and then shopping physically, you have to understand, shopping physically is very much like a primal hunter-gatherer kind of activity, right? You're hunting, you're searching, you're looking for that perfect item. So like that's a totally different thing, right? But if you're talking online or like, like, is it to survive? Is it what brings me the most joy?
Yes, the latter. The latter.
Okay.
It's what brings me the most joy. My question was not about survival.
I mean, Steam is a great place to waste money. I hate it because I have zero time to play the games, but I still get sucked in.
It's like Pokemon cards. You're actually not playing the game. You're collecting the parts.
Yeah,
so that's what
and then
Steam
it's like, what? RoboCop for $6? All right, I'll buy it. I'm never going to play it. I have zero time, so that's stupid. But otherwise, like fly shops. I mean, of course, I'm going to like shopping at a fly shop. I mean, that's always enjoyable.
Jaron, what do you got?
In person, I like Muji. You guys ever been to a Muji?
No, what's a Muji?
Is that a Daiso? Is that like a dollar store?
No. Oh. Do not besmirch Muji by calling it Daiso. It's a Japanese like clothing store. but it also has like general goods. So they'll sell like house supplies. You can get like storage containers. They have luggage. They have food.
Did we
they have
not
coffee.
shop for that in Tokyo? Like, I'm pretty sure we went to something.
I don't know
like
if we
that
went
in
into a Muji. I think we went. I think you're probably thinking of Don Quixote, which is
No.
terrible.
No, that's
No.
a dollar
We
store.
don't.
No, I went into. I went.
We
in-
know
I
the
think I went
theme song.
into-
We're not confusing that.
I
We
think
went
I
into a
into
Uniqlo.
Muji. No, I think I went into a Muji when I was in Osaka. I'm pretty
no,
sure.
I wasn't there. I like Muji. We have one in Portland. It's a nice store. I like their clothing. Like it's just comfortable to wear. But online, the thing is, after deciding that I no longer wanted to give Jeff Bezos any more money, and every time I say his name, I have to add another E to the way I say it. Jeff Bezos.
Bezos. You still do though, right?
Beelzebubs.
Only if I have no other option. Like a lot of companies only are on Amazon now because that's just like how they are. But like I like going to Bandai and buying directly from Bandai. You can see I'm pointing over my shoulder. I got models that I
For
need to build.
Gundams.
Yeah, I also go to just the company's website directly. I just buy direct from them. So like my pans
nice
are
of
from
you.
Made In, so I go directly to Made In, and it's just like that's just what I do now. So I don't really have a
thought you were
favorite
gonna-
single location online.
I thought you were going to say Alibaba Express. I thought you were like, I'm not doing it Amazon anymore, but I still want my instant gratification Alibaba Express.
No, I'm patient. I sit and I wait patiently for things to arrive now. Or I go to like a local store and pick it up. Like there's a local hardware store here where I'll go get, things like that if I need it, like glue or whatever.
Jaron, you mentioned you could get Japanese food in Portland. So
Yes.
I'm going to give you a quick rundown of 3 essentials, and you tell me if they are available to you. Are you ready?
Sure.
Can you get OM curry?
No.
No.
Oh, damn it. Can you get a Boss Rainbow?
Yes.
Ooh, can you get Picari Sweat?
Yes. And
2 out of 3. That's pretty good.
like the refrigerated section has pretty much everything you can find in the vending machines in Japan in it. So yeah, it's a pretty robust refrigerated section.
That still doesn't answer your question, though, for yourself, Jordan.
Yeah. Where do you
Oh,
like to
let me
shop?
tell you, because I despise shopping. It is my.
He really hates it.
Oh
like,
shoot, I
it
forgot
is an
one.
absolute-
Costco. Costco's wonderful.
Okay.
Anyway, you
You're
can
one of
continue.
those.
Costco's pretty great.
No, I don't generally enjoy shopping at all. It is a necessity, not something that I enjoy until the last couple of years. Avid listeners and viewers will know that I have rediscovered my joy of physical media. And now I'm going to Sunrise Records all the time and poking through looking for 4K Blu-ray discs. And man, this is the best. It's bringing me right back like, oh, we got 2 versions of this. I mean, which version has the best special features? Which one has the best sound mix? And I can spend hours doing this. And it is
aren't you just
immediately
buying-
so nostalgic.
Aren't you just buying the same movies that you've already owned in DVD?
Oh man, no, I'm mixing it up. Like, I just made a massive mistake grabbing the wrong copy of Parasite right before the Criterion version, which had already been announced but hadn't shipped yet. So I'm now stuck with like this bland, barely featureful disc. But then on the flip side of that, every once in a while you'll find something like Buster Keaton's 7 Chances, including a beautiful transfer of Sherlock Jr. that I didn't even know existed, that I just stumbled across. So it's all kinds of poking through and comparing, and you'll find secret gems and sometimes really affordable ones. I am loving it. So I'm into shopping again now, thanks to blessed physical media, of which
in
I am
one
the only
context.
proponent on this podcast.
Yeah, in one context, yes. He still absolutely hates shopping. He's
I don't
miserable
enjoy it.
the whole time, like actively miserable the
Yep.
whole time, which makes it very hard to then shop when you have
Clothing
somebody
shopping,
like
I get it. I get like if you have to go buy clothes, it stinks. I want to be out of there
any
as soon as
shop.
possible.
What?
But any
Clothing
shopping,
shopping's fun too.
I like going grocery shopping. Like I look forward to it every week. Like going out and going to my store and looking. Yeah,
I
Jordan,
think you guys
hates
need to practice a little bit more hunting and a little bit more gathering.
it. All right.
That's as good an intro as we're ever going to get to start this show. Let's go, boys.
Guys, you guys have been taking pictures with new cameras for some time now, but only recently have we started uploading RAW files for PetaPixel members. But did you know that we now have over 30 already?
What?
Cameras and lenses.
We're so prolific. We're so prolific.
You guys are. I was like, it's going to take a while for this list to look substantial. It really didn't. It only took a few months, and you've already packed it out with so much stuff. And we've been so busy, we haven't even been able to go back and do like a backlog of things. So like, we will eventually add more in there when it slows down.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
all of these
crazy.
vast resources that we're collecting rapidly, it'd be great if people could enjoy those, hey?
Yeah.
And not just enjoy them, but also have exclusive access, because then it's like being in business class and you just feel like, you can walk past, you watch all the people walk past you and they don't get to see JPEGs and RAW files. And they got to go sit in the back of the plane, and there you are enjoying your exclusive access to JPEGs and RAW files. And then
very much like
some nice person brings you like a Prosecco. That's really sweet. So, you can achieve that by getting a PetaPixel.com membership. And unlike business class, it only costs $3 a month or $30 a year. And we just talked about how people love to shop, well, except Jordan. I mean, most people enjoy the act of like shopping and finding things and getting cool merch like this. Look at this Hootsugo. I've pronounced that wrong, but look at that. Brother Beard shirt. Where do you get that? The PetaPixel merch store. And if you have a PetaPixel.com membership, you actually get a 25% discount, which makes your shopping 75% better. I don't know how math.
Is that how math works?
No, I don't
Looping
think so.
back to the sample galleries, where I really think this is something that listeners and YouTube watchers would very much be the target audience for. The ones that we've most recently added, the Fujifilm X-E5, the Fujifilm X-Half. So the X-Half is funny because it doesn't shoot RAW, so it's a giant JPEG gallery. Enjoy. The OM System OM5 Mark II, even though that sensor isn't new, it's in there. You can take a look at the pictures that it takes.
Look, there's photographs. Look at them. Click
Sigma
through them.
17 to 40 f1.8 DC art. That's in there.
Nice.
The Saray Aurora 8514 and the Viltrox 85 f1.4 Pro. Those are both
great
in
lenses.
there. So you could actually look side by side. Where do you want to spend? What is it? $600? Depending on where you get it,
like 500 or 400, and the big difference with those two is very different bokeh renditions. So compare the two side by side, see what catches your eye.
There you go.
So like the other thing is, I'm not done uploading. I'm still collecting files. I will upload them today, but I neglected to put it up there. It'll be there soon. The Viltrox 35 f1.2 Lab. That's the lens that Chris was using last week to shoot himself on the podcast, and it kept breathing. Yeah,
terrible breathing.
You can look at the files from that if you'd like. It's not a video lens, clearly. And then also,
it's pretty cool.
The Light Lens Lab 50mm f1.5, the remake of the P Ingénieux, is that'll be up there today.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
On what? How I said Ingénieux?
No, just the pronunciation police drive me crazy. It's nothing worse in this world.
Oh, the pronunciation police. Yes,
it's the worst. It's the worst part of my job. I hate all of them. Anyways, it's a great membership to get. And, I think let's also appeal to your generosity, folks, because, for example, we did a really interesting documentary in Chile where we got to see the LSST. Fantastic, the Vera C. Rubin Observatory. Like, this is a fantastic project, and we got to be a part of it. And that's only possible because of PetaPixel.com memberships. Like, that money helps support our team, not financially, but like to actually do these interesting projects for you to see. And I think like the feedback's been great on that project. Tons of views. Like, where we love doing that stuff. It's a really fascinating look into things that are photography adjacent. And so you guys make that possible with those memberships. So we really appreciate that support. So please continue to support us with that. There's lots of perks for you. You get to go shopping, and you get to get all those files, and you get to support amazing projects. So please consider that.
I have another project that I'd like us to do.
Gundam Museum?
We could do it relatively quickly, like within the next 6 months. But
we fly to Tokyo and we shop all the Mujis.
Close. How would viewers like to see like the top 20 best camera stores in Tokyo?
Oh, hell yeah.
Gosh, yeah.
I think we could do that. There's a guy that I'm already working with in Japan to do like a written version. There's a lot. We could cut it down.
That's a 4-hour video. Yeah, okay.
Well, depends on how long you talk about each of them. But like, I think it would be neat to show people like where the good goods are and the really interesting shops. So like that's on my radar right now of one that I'd like to do. But
so you're saying I could shop in Japan
for cameras? Or you could shoot Chris shopping.
I'd like to revise my earlier answer. I do have fun in used camera stores in Japan. So there's two types of shopping I enjoy.
And you know what I like? There was a really lovely guy at a small used camera shop that we went into. Jaron bought batteries.
Yeah.
He was looking for batteries. And this guy, recognizing that we were North American, said, "Oh, for your Nikon?" This is a Japanese guy saying Nikon the American way because he appreciates that North Americans say it differently. Pronunciation is not offensive. It's not just like stupid Americans mispronouncing everything. It is actually... I hate those people. Anyways.
Yeah, I think that's Tokyo Camera. Great store. That would be on the list.
He appreciates that everybody says things differently, and that's wonderful, and that's the way the world should be.
Anyway, you should definitely consider a PetaPixel membership, $3 a month, $3 a year. Really appreciate it. Let's move on and talk about some news. Don't have a ton this week, but there is some stuff that's worth pointing out. If you recall, maybe a month, 2 months ago, we reported that Synology was requiring that in order to use its most recent NAS devices, that you would have to get certified SSDs inside of it.
Which seemed weird. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You could use other SSDs, but you lost functionality.
Correct.
Is that true?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So that was a few months ago, and there was something that we were like, I bet these are going to cost more. Well, we now know what they cost. Tom's Hardware reported initially, and then we followed up on it, that yes, indeed, if you wanted to get a Synology branded SSD, a 1.6 terabyte NVMe PCI 3.0 M.2 costs $535 if you were going to buy that from Synology. Do you know how much that costs if you don't buy it from Synology?
I bet Jaron knows.
$100. Essentially, Synology is charging 5 times as much for a technology that is not even the most recent type of SSD technology. This is, of course, entirely predictable because it's always going to be about how they can charge people more money. This stinks for users, and there's really we don't even really know if we're actually getting any benefit from the certification. I don't know if anyone was complaining that the non-certified SSDs were causing problems before. This is just something Synology decided to do. Just so you know, there are other NAS companies. We just recently reviewed.
Yeah, there's tons of options.
Ugreen is now a NAS company, and while it's not as robust of a software, it is a pretty good NAS if you want to look into it.
I use the Ugreen. It's been rocking.
Do you?
It's working great. Yeah.
I did not know you had one.
Yeah, I think it's the Ugreen. I don't know now.
Okay.
We're second guessing ourselves.
QNAP's also really expensive, but both Ugreen and TerraMaster are pretty affordable. I don't love TerraMaster's design aesthetic. Ugreen's looks just like Synology's, so if that's what you're into, there you go.
So do you think their expectation here is it's just so many commercial clients who already have a Synology system are like, look, rather than just switch anything over, we'll just suck up the cost? Because, that seems like a very
they're aiming
short-sighted solution. Yeah.
Just try and squeeze their high-paying clients for more money, their high-paying customers, and it just feels bad.
I think I'm sure the product is reliable. And by certifying these SSDs, you're not going to have any compatibility issues. So you're offering the peace of mind for extra money, right? I mean, we've seen this many, many times. But the fact of the matter is, there's plenty of NAS devices you can mix and match brands, and they work just fine. But
this is the quote from Synology. The decision reflects Synology's ongoing commitment to deliver the highest levels of system stability and performance. Extensive internal testing has shown that drives that follow a rigorous validation process when paired with Synology systems are less risk of drive failure and ongoing compatibility issues. Okay, sure.
There you go. Okay, there you go.
All right. There you go. Well, that's not fun. Next thing, also not fun. The National Press Photographers Association, also known as NPPA, had, out of nowhere seemingly, major financial issues. So during they called an emergency meeting last Wednesday that I was made aware of from a source close to the matter. And this meeting went from 8 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. the next day. Wow. As they were trying to figure out what to do. But the NPPA Board of Directors says that it is not getting enough money to maintain the organization. They had to let go almost everyone, and they stopped paying their 2 lawyers who agreed to work pro bono while they figure this out. But one of those lawyers,
Yikes.
well, both of them, Alicia Calzada, and Mickey Osterreicher. Mickey and I have been in contact for years, and he's been a friend of PetaPixel forever. He's an excellent legal mind, and we consult him constantly on legal issues. And it stinks that this is happening.
And it's tough because this is a really good resource for photographers that are parts of members where, if they have copyright issues, if they feel somebody is using their photos against their will, like using them without permission and stuff like that, they have this resource of these lawyers who can then advocate for them and defend them and make sure that their work is treated properly and respected. And so, these are valuable associations. And we've seen similar associations across commercial photographers and stuff like that too, right? So, but the press need all the help they can get. They're hardworking people and they're doing really important work. And it's tough because, the money's just not coming in nowadays. So, that's sad.
Yeah. Anything to add, Jordan?
No, just Chris really touched on it. Is just that we've been hearing more and more stories like this, and as people lean more and more on freelancers to provide all of the news photos, a lot of professional photography, then they're just not going to be able to budget for joining groups like this. It's just going to be a month by month thing, and of course, as a result, membership is slipping, and it's sad to see.
They will be having another emergency meeting on Wednesday, July 9th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what will be discussed there, but there you go. If there's more to this story.
Hopefully paying the lawyers.
We'll report on it next week. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
All right. Next one, somewhat interesting. We were all there for this. We were talking to OM System at Build, and they told us that, yes, they're aware that there's been complaints that 20 megapixels is not enough. So they're considering AI upscaling inside the camera, similar to what Canon does on the R1 and the R5 Mark II, in a feature that is largely ignored, as a solution to its low-resolution sensors. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, the benefit with doing it with AI after the fact, and I assume that's what they're talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what Canon was doing too, right? So you're shooting a RAW file. It's then applying this AI upscaling to it. Now, the Canon could only then spit out a JPEG. I mean, that was something we have to keep in mind. It couldn't give you an upscaled RAW. But the idea just being that it applies this fact after, and we've seen interesting results, right? I mean, we had the opportunity to go visit the Glass company, and they do a lot of AI upscaling. Specifically, they're targeting small sensors like smartphones. But then this makes a lot of sense because these are smaller sensors too, and it would actually really apply here. And some of the resolution improvements that we saw were really quite dramatic and quite striking and free of artifacts. So there is some potential here for some really interesting technology to be applied where you can upscale, but it looks good. It's not just interpolating.
I have to imagine
it
that
looks good.
Even if they've licensed Glass's software, which we don't even know if they're going to do, or if they develop their own, one of the bottlenecks for OM right now
is the processor.
It's the processor.
Already.
Yeah. So in order to do the really nice one that you're talking about, Chris, that's going to take the camera's going to be chugging on a picture for a while before it spits out an upgraded one. The main thing I've heard as a why on this is there are computer-based programs that are better than the ones that you can probably get in camera using, a computer's processor is better.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to do that, you can already do it with Topaz and Adobe. So putting it in the camera isn't really doing anything for me.
No, not really in the context of what OM System wants their cameras to be known for, right? Because they're really pushing for wildlife, birding, outdoor pursuits, that kind of stuff. And in those situations, where I'm kind of getting at is I could see where a journalist, for example, who just needs to get a high resolution photo out, immediately to an editor or something like that might have the time constraint where if it did it in camera, great, right? Although then you have the whole thing of, but I'm using AI to upscale my photos for journalism. But you know what I mean?
Right.
That was Canon's sort of claim is look, there are sports photographers and stuff where they need to get this photo.
OM's not making that same argument.
No, they're not. So I guess what I'm getting at is if I was a birder, I don't foresee any issues where I immediately have to have a high resolution photo in camera. I would just go back home, put my raw files in, use Topaz or whatever, and add more resolution artificially afterwards. Again, using, as Jordan said, the more powerful computer. So I don't know. If they do it, it might just be to try to mitigate some of this bad press that they get over having a relatively low resolution sensor.
Yeah, I mean, that's been their solution for landscape and stuff for quite some time is, of course, you can always get 50 or in some cameras 80 megapixel images through stacking them, which is absolutely a great way to do it, but obviously doesn't work with anything that's moving. I just really think they've put themselves in it by saying we are inflexible. We are only going to use sensors that are fast enough for us to use all of our computational tricks. They've really put themselves in a situation where, this is probably the only option with the current technology that's available to them right now. I just think for landscape, absolutely their solution works great, but they're really honing in like almost everything in the high end that they're marketing is towards birders right now, and they want more resolution.
You know,
it means new sensors. It means new sensors and better processing power.
And that's expensive, and that's probably why we haven't gotten it. We like something else Gordon mentioned last week on like that kind of goes along the same train of thought. Like OM won't do something if it doesn't include everything they're already doing. It sounds like that's what they have to do. If they've made it already, they can't remove a feature because that's the only thing they can stand on. So that's why we're not getting a new pen necessarily, is because they can't weather seal it. And if they can't weather seal it, it's not an OM camera. It doesn't fit within their vision of like where their company goes. So we don't get it. And I feel like that inflexibility is detrimental personally. You don't need every camera to do everything that you do as a company because there are different types of users.
Yeah.
I'm not going to I don't dunk any of my cameras currently under rushing water. And I don't think I would do that with a pen. Oh, I know. It sounds amazing.
Chris seems really happy when he's doing it.
What if you spilled a coffee? You pen in an urban environment. If you spilled a coffee all over your pen or, something like that, well, then, you need waterproofing. You get caught in a rainstorm, but it's New York and it's nighttime. So all the lights are reflecting off all the water in the streets. And so you're like, I'm going to go shoot photos because I'm an actual photographer, and you're getting soaking wet. And then your pen explodes. What do you do, right?
It explodes.
Use one of the other products in their line if that's the type of photography you do.
Let's be honest. What you're probably doing is using a Weather Shield X100 anyways.
Yeah, that's what I would use. At any rate, I don't know. I don't think this is what people necessarily want to hear. That said, I have read online, there are those who are like, some people are going to say that they're going to jump all over OM for this stance, but there are some folks who would probably use it if it was in there.
Let's keep in mind, though, too, like AI technology is getting better. Again, we're not talking about the yucky AI. We're talking about interesting AI because I think it's not all bad. And AI, it's machine learning, really. It's not AI in this case. It's machine learning. And it is getting better all the time. And so there is absolutely potential to research this, to use it in cameras, to be able to do interesting things beyond just the actual sensor itself. I wonder if sensor wafers are maybe kind of getting a little bit, there's only so much you can do, right? Like with the real estate that a Micro Four Thirds sensor has, how much higher could we go, right? Yeah. I don't know. Well, so, we might not have that much potential. There's a little bit of room to push for sure, but, it's not like we're going to get 40 megapixel Micro Four Thirds sensors anytime soon, right? So this might be worthwhile
Is there a reason we can't?
I mean, it's a very tight pixel pitch, so you'd be shooting your lenses pretty wide aperture to avoid diffraction. That's the big complaint that I constantly hear. So here's a pitch I've got. Oh, sorry.
The lenses have to get even better too, right? Like people don't appreciate, like if you're going to resolve these smaller pixel pitches, you need really good glass.
Fuji did that with the 40 megapixel. They improved all their lenses to work with it. Yeah. Sorry, Jordan. Go ahead.
You have to. No, I was just going to say, so here's my potential way that this could be useful. And the big issue here, I think, is battery life. But if somebody could work out a way to have background processing, so like you've shot a few photos, and then while you're framing or the camera's in standby or something like that, then in the background it's doing some of the up-resing, that I think could be really useful for photographers. The issue right now is Canon's solution where you basically stop working and then you go in and you hit up-res and then you wait for it to process out, and now your files are disorganized, and you're like, oh wait, where the hell was that? Yeah, it sends it way to the end, and all that kind of stuff. Like that's just a bad workflow. But I could see potentially, just be like up-resing in progress, as something while you're shooting, and then eventually you got a file. But yeah, battery life is going to take a big hit.
Not only that, but now your fully sealed camera body has probably a second processor dedicated to this while you're working. And you know what all these do is they generate heat.
And they make your camera bigger. Yeah.
This is why I'll never be a camera engineer. I'm just going to
it's a harrowing
keep on making
career.
YouTube videos.
Harrowing.
We should appreciate how hard these people work. It's harrowing. Yeah, it's my new I love the word harrowing.
It's a very good word.
It's a great word. Yeah.
When used appropriately.
Now, on the topic of sensors, our next story is quite interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Because, smartphones are trying to get higher resolution. They're trying to get more dynamic range. And Apple has just released a patent for an image sensor that gives 20 stops of dynamic range. And I have to admit, this is Apple. They're capable of doing some crazy stuff. But I have to admit, upon first seeing this, I'm skeptical and I'm calling a little bit of BS because, that's a huge jump.
Well, let me read to you, before you talk, Jordan, here. Let me read to you what the description of this is. It's an image sensor with stacked pixels having high dynamic range and low noise. The image sensor is comprised of two components, a sensor die and a logic die. The image sensor itself features an array of detector elements, photodiodes. It also has a lateral overflow integration capacitor circuit to improve dynamic range in challenging situations. Each photodiode is paired with a pixel circuit on the logic die, which has a memory circuit that senses the amount of noise at the image detection level. The patent is essentially for a stacked image sensor that can store different levels of light across each pixel, allowing different photodiodes to be more or less charged based on the scene's brightness. So, if a pixel needs to be more sensitive to the light level striking it, it could be, while another can remain less sensitive to avoid blowing out if it's struck with more light.
Yeah.
Those words are by Jeremy Gray.
God, what a great writer. This does make a ton of sense because when we saw the massive dynamic range bumps in smartphones, it was from image stacking. So it's like, here's a bright image, here's a dark image, combine them together, very close together. But now if you can actually do it at the pixel level, just say like, this pixel's getting way more light than these other pixels, so let's turn that sensitivity down so it doesn't clip. Hey, this one here is quite noisy, it's clearly not getting enough light, let's boost the sensitivity on that. You scoosh all those together and then you apply computational photography on top of that, then yeah, theoretically, I don't see why they couldn't hit a absolutely massive dynamic range doing it.
Sure, absolutely. But it sounds a lot like what film does, where you have actually like different sensitivities of photodiodes, but we would talk about silver elements. Like, it sounds kind of like what that's doing. But again, it is a lot of magic as well. It is a lot of smartphone magic as well on top of it to achieve these results, right?
Yeah.
So is it the sensor itself capable of doing it? How much of it is computational after the fact?
The sensor's doing it itself, but it would still be blending multiple images with this same technology applied. So now you've got individual shots with more DR and you're still stacking them.
It's a good idea.
It's a great idea.
The idea is a great idea. I can see why they patented it. Like, this is like, we're taking the concepts of current things and making them smaller and more specific. That's cool. I hope it succeeds. Like, that would be dope.
Yeah, it just keeps going back to like, I feel like sensor technology is progressing faster than processing power to actually take advantage of these features. Because I'm sure this is going to require enormous resources on the fly for it to be adjusting the exposure of each pixel while also dumping them. Yeah, luckily Apple
chips are insane. They're all very good, so they got the power for it.
I guess what I'm trying to get across is this is an interesting story, but it's at a phase right now where it could just be fantasy and vaporware.
Yeah, just an idea.
And so, they're patenting the idea, which is great. You want to lock it down before somebody else does. But I don't think we're going to see fruition for a little while, if at all. Who knows?
So, like, if
maybe
if
something
this
else
works,
will come out that works even better.
They would have the equivalent of around 19.9 stops, which is at the lower end of the human eye's dynamic range. If it were to come out, it would be better than even large format cinema cameras that are available today, as far as dynamic range is concerned. That's huge if they manage to make it happen. So
yeah, we're still stuck in that sort of 15 pushing
at
16.
best. Even then, we're really pushing it. I say 14 is functionally, except for the new Alexas and stuff. Really, 14 to 15 is as much as we're getting.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So it is very cool.
I hope they do it. I can't wait to take all that dynamic range and then, black out my black shadows and
and then not put it on an HDR screen.
And not put it on an HDR screen. I can't wait.
All right, here we go. Last story of the week. I have to play our song because...
Oh, what?
Yesterday in the afternoon, Donald Trump sent a letter to Japan and Korea saying that if they don't, I don't know, any number of things. It's very difficult to read this letter, but essentially if they don't please him... What?
It was a fairly threatening letter.
Yeah, it's like a threat. If you don't,
yeah.
I guess, offset the trade deficit, which is not how trade works, but sure, he will impose a 25% tariff rates against both Korea and Japan. We are currently at 10, and as everyone I'm sure has realized, cameras suddenly got noticeably more expensive. Well, that was only with a 10% increase. 25% would make that significantly worse. They have until August 1st to come to some sort of amorphous agreement with the U.S. Otherwise, he's threatening to enact this starting August 1st.
And any reciprocal tariff, he would then just add 25% on top of that. So, yeah, he wants to maintain that 25% higher cost. People, there have been some prices that don't have to change. Like a lot of production, the supply chain does come from China. These countries that are still heavily tariffed, and so that has raised prices, which we're now seeing across the whole industry. But there are some products that are made in Japan exclusively, or largely in Japan, that don't have these price increases, and basically this will change that. So
yeah, Fujifilm moved the production of the X106 and a couple other cameras out of China to Japan specifically for the U.S. market, and this would essentially...
That's not going to help.
Yep.
That's not going to change.
And that was Canon's whole mentality as well, is like, look, most of our production's still based in Japan, so we're going to have a real advantage with this tariff situation, and now clearly that's not going to be the case as well.
And then companies like Sigma, who exclusively make their products in Japan, they're not going to be able to avoid this.
Yeah, and I just get the sense that he'll just keep chasing around the countries too. Like Nikon would feel like, cool, at least we make our things in Thailand. Well, I don't think that's going to necessarily help in the long run either. So, so in North America, Canada and the U.S., because Canada always gets whatever the U.S. gets, if this happens, expect significantly higher prices in this already expensive hobby. Not fun, not cool, no like.
Yeah.
All right. So if we can't buy new cameras...
what a segue.
What do we do?
So how did we get started on this, Jordan? Like, what was the reason?
I had no part in this, but I will.
This is Jordan's idea. Why are we doing this, Jordan?
Just a while back, we were talking about how it would be worth looking at some of maybe the best deals on used cameras and realize that's way too expansive a topic. So we're like, let's narrow it down. What are people really looking at that essentially you can only get on the used market right now, with a couple of exceptions? So we really settled on fixed lens cameras, largely compact, that seem to be really popular right now. We are going to give a little bit of an incentive to something with a built-in flash, because that is something that a lot of people are looking for that seems to be missing, or they're using garbage LED flashes. So we decided, this is not a KEH ad or anything like that, but it just so happens that PetaPixel's preferred pre-owned camera
PetaPixels
gear.
is our new repair service. It's going to be great. You can send your broken cameras into us, and we will fix your cameras. Join PetaPixel.com. Yeah.
Oh, if we could can we get a few camera technicians, Jaron? Because it's just such
I'm
an
sure
easy
they work
grab
for
there.
$0.
No.
Can you just buy that URL really quickly?
I replaced a rear
Walk it
dial on my GM5. I mean, I think I could handle anything.
I think you
now.
PetaPixeled that day.
I did PetaPixel that camera.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
So we have a wish list of cameras that we're looking at. But the thing about KEH is it's used gear coming in and out all the time. So we're going to see what of some of these is available to us. And we are going to each make a selection at the end of it. And we are going to get that shipped out, and we're going to do a review years after the production run of these products.
Assuming
I think it's fun.
Yeah.
This is a great idea.
I'm excited. So here's the thing. You two probably have used, or at least had some exposure to every camera we're going to talk about.
Almost all of these.
Yeah.
I don't. I didn't shoot with fixed lens stuff. So like through my whole like early journalism career, like where I was doing reviews and stuff, my focus, like I was sent on the pro end. So I was shooting like interchangeable lens, specifically Canon and Sony. I had almost no exposure to Nikon. I didn't start using Fujifilm until just a few years ago. So there's a ton of cameras in here that I had never even heard of before because it was just not my focus. So I'm excited to learn about these cameras that maybe I'd never heard of before.
And I'm looking forward to this because I have filmed Chris talking about a lot of these, but I haven't actually had a ton of chances to actually go out and shoot with them.
Yeah.
And Chris, as we know, you're nostalgic for the early digital days, so you're looking forward to testing these guys out, right?
No. You know what? It'll be fun to play with some of these cameras again because I have reviewed most of these cameras. Like we covered a lot, and yeah, it'll be great. I'm not super nostalgic for classic point and shoot digitals, but there are some in here that like, oh yeah, it'd be fun to try that again. And see what it's like.
Before you actually pick one, Chris, we know we went here a few weeks ago, and the selection was entirely different than it is now.
Yeah.
Like obviously these are moving quick, so don't just tell us what you're going to end up getting. Like, what are ones that you wish were here that they don't have an inventory of now? Just out of curiosity. So, like, why don't you tell us, like, what are point and shoots that you remember actually, like, yeah, that'd be cool to shoot again?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
That's one you want to watch the video version for, to watch us do.
A lot of these cameras are absolute dog crap.
Give me one. Give me one that you're like, this was bad when it came out.
Tell you what, no. I won't do that. What I will say is what cameras do appeal to me from this era. Right? Like, what do I consider a good point and shoot kind of, or a desirable classic digital camera? I'm not a big fan of super zooms. And I know that that's a cool feature for digital cameras because they had small sensors, they could have big lenses. And so I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. It just doesn't float my boat. I'm not huge on these. And I mean, I've used all these like Panasonic FZ35, like great little cameras, FinePix HS20s, like, RX10s, like all these cameras have really long lenses. And they're bridge cameras in a way. They give you decent manual control. I had a Canon S2IS for a long time. Don't regret it. It was a nice little camera. But what I really like, especially nowadays, as I look at the older cameras, I like compact, small zooms, brighter apertures to help mitigate that tiny ass sensor. And I really want to have like nice manual controls and like a stylish camera. There is no such thing in this world as a sexy bridge camera. They're hideous. They're stupid looking.
No, that's correct.
I think that's
just the way it is.
I thought about it for a second. Yeah.
No, that doesn't exist. But there are a whole plethora of really nice, stylish, compact cameras, many design cues of which major manufacturers are trying to copy today, right? So what I really like are the RX100s, the Panasonic G series cameras, the old S100s. I really like the old Pentax Optios that fit in an Altoids tin. Like just these really stylish compact cameras. The Contax point and shoots were amazing back in the day. Good luck finding those. GRs, like that kind of stuff is really cool. So that's where I would go.
Okay. So what did you narrow your list down to, Chris?
I really think of all the choices on here, I think the G5X. I want to get my hands on G5X. I know that's one of those cameras. Unfortunately, those prices are starting to go up. But yeah,
as some context, we initially put like a budget limit on this, but
which I still think we should stick to. But you guys are no fun.
You can't do it because the cameras are all worth more now used than they were selling for brand new. Yeah. So you said G5X?
G5X, so original. The Canon G5X, yeah. I mean, it's a cool little camera, and when I saw it again, I was like, that'd be fun to play with. Keep in mind, I was trying to stick to a budget.
This is still $718.
Sure. It's got an EVF, though. It's got a little pop-up electronic flash. It's got nice dial controls. I actually like that front dial. It's got a beautiful lens, 1.8 to 2.8 aperture. Like, it's pretty bright. So I would love to play with that again. There's something about that. I'm like, I haven't used that in a long time. It'd be fun to play with again. But, I mean, otherwise, in that same kind of range, like I always like the LX100 Panasonic. Remember, I saw that guy in Kyoto, and I was like, that guy is a boss, rocking his LX100 on his chest. That was pretty sweet. But they're getting expensive, but they got a nice bright lens, fairly large sensor. You can get original LX100 for like $600.
Do they still have it on KEH, or is it sold out right now?
Oh, there is one on there for now.
So do you want it? Which one are you gonna get?
RX100s. I don't know.
You said LX100?
That's kind of where I'm sitting. That's kind of where I'm sitting. I would go RX100, LX100, G5X. And unfortunately, everybody else wants those too because the price goes up. The other cameras that kind of interest me are the old Sigma DPs because the image quality punches way above its weight for the cost and size. But they're a pain in the butt to use. So I don't know if I'm nostalgic for the shooting experience and the processing experience afterwards, but certainly the cameras have good lenses and very interesting sensor technology.
How about you, Jaron?
So looking at these cameras, going through them, like I mentioned, I was like, I don't recognize.
Pick the ugliest.
I don't recognize any of these. I've never seen this camera before in my life. So like the ones that stuck out to me are ones that I've heard other people have good experiences with. And so my list is Sony RX1, which I've heard good things about.
Yeah.
Sure. And then the Fujifilm X70 is apparently a beloved camera. What can you tell me about it? Like, when did this come out?
It was the redheaded stepchild of the world when it first came out.
Really? Why?
It
looks a lot like an X100.
It does. It wasn't popular, hey, Jordan, like when it first came out.
Well, so the big issue, this is exactly what we keep saying Fujifilm needs to make. You're still looking at an APS-C sensor. You've got a fixed lens on it. It was a 28 mil equivalent, which I know Chris preferred, but it got absolutely savaged in reviews, ourselves included.
Why?
Because the autofocus was so unreliable on it. Even doing like single point on a subject, a lot of the time it would wind up in front or behind. Just very, very inconsistent. So that's why I keep saying like the time is ripe for a new X70 because the autofocus would inevitably be better on it. But that was the big strike. But if you want to take this out, manually pre-focus for some street photography, then you're going to get lovely image quality and a very stylish body for sure.
Yeah,
what about the X20?
X20s I have a soft spot for. Yeah, X10s and X20s are a fun little camera. Optical viewfinder to look through. It's kind of like nice manual controls. They were sexy. They were designed to look like the classic cameras. Limited in their megapixel count, though. I mean, we're talking fairly old.
It's 12. I don't care. Yeah. Look, all these cameras are going to be low resolution. I'm shooting film. Low resolution does not bother this man.
Well, this is a type 2/3 sensor, Jaron, so that might influence things a little. Like we're back to talking like smartphone image quality on these, but they had a manual zoom that was so lovely. It felt great.
Yeah, it looks neat.
It's a very tactile camera. Like you got a lot to do with your fingers, and it's fun to play with. And the optical viewfinder is kind of adorable. Yeah, you like it.
So all of this said, you guys probably will tell me I can't. But I don't actually want to shoot with either of these.
You can't.
I want to shoot with a Contax T2.
Oh, no, I thought we were talking digital fixed lens.
Don't be stupid.
Can I get a Leica Minilux?
No. No. Great camera.
Why not? They're here.
No. Pick something reasonable. Don't be silly.
Just out of curiosity, I've got a bargain bin level Contax T2 here. That's $1,361.
No.
They got 3 of them. I'm just curious. Did you have experience with this camera, Chris?
I have not played with it that much. I know it's very popular now amongst the old school shooters. It's like I think the price on that has exploded quite a bit.
Yeah.
I want you to get a Sigma DP Quattro and just tell me if you can even hold it properly in your hand.
You guys are just not at all.
I'm sorry. I thought we were coming into this looking at digital fixed lens cameras, Jaron.
But I'm me, and I really want.
I want you to shoot your existing film cameras more, Jaron.
We don't We do not get to keep these cameras.
No, we don't.
You don't need more analog point and shoot camera.
Sarah has a Minilux, and I'm really jealous.
You don't have to do what Sarah does. You're your own person. You can lead your own life.
But it's so nice. A 35 to 70, f/35 to 6.5. It's $1,000. All right, fine. I'll get an
Sarah's
X70.
lucky. Her family had one of those and gave it to her. The Minilux is just like a really prestigious family camera.
I know.
Like, make no mistake, it's a family point and shoot camera. It's just a really nice one.
So, okay.
Everybody should watch 1 Hour Photo. What a great movie.
Before I pass this, great movie. Before I pass this to Jordan, if you guys had to make a recommendation to me, knowing the type of shooter that I am, and I had to pick between an RX1 and an X70, which one do you think?
Like fixed lenses with no zoom because you're silly.
I like
I think you'd enjoy the RX1 more. But I mean, the X70 is an interesting camera. I want you to play with it just because I'm curious if it's gotten any better. It probably hasn't. But
why would it have gotten better?
Who knows?
It would.
I mean, Fujifilm are the masters of firmware, but I feel like this was a neglected camera back in the day for the firm.
Yeah,
but
I'm
I'm very curious coming from another perspective because I've never used one. I just was filming Chris being like, this focus just keeps like not being where I want it to be. And because it was just an LCD display on it as well, you couldn't always tell until you got back home and you were like, oh no, it focused on the dumpster instead of the person I was trying to take a picture of.
I don't feel like researching it again, but it very well could have had a firmware upgrade after we played with it. Who knows?
All right. Jordan, what are you considering?
I think we're doing me now. Okay, so looking at this.
Maybe first, if you wanted to answer, like, which of those two cameras do you think I should shoot with?
I'm going to agree with Chris. I think you'd really, I would love your take on an RX1 camera. Sure. I think that's quite interesting. The 2 is obviously the better one with the pop-up EVF and all that fun stuff, but you'll get the RX1 experience with the original. And I'd love to know what you think. Beautiful lens on that. It's the 24 megapixel sensor.
Yeah, beautiful.
I think you can get an optical viewfinder for it and just stick it on top, like on the hot.
You totally could. Sure. It's a 35.
Yeah, for framing.
Super easy.
Yeah, it's bad focal length. Jordan?
We must end with bummers at all opportunities. So I basically looked at this in terms of, what experience have I not had? Because I shoot a fair amount of stills, but I certainly haven't had a chance to play with everything. Even back when I worked at the camera store, a lot of it was just messing around behind the counter. So I've never actually taken out a Canon G series camera. Those were like the premium point and shoot cameras for a very long time. So I'm on here right now because the ones that are available keep coming in and out.
If you take my G5X, I'll be so mad at you.
So that was one that was in contention, but you've settled on that, so I'm not going to touch it. The G10 is available, and you might remember this was a controversial camera, Chris, because it's a 15 megapixel point and shoot. And the noise was so problematic, they actually scaled it back down after this.
Yeah.
I believe the 11 was a 10 or 12. I can't really tell because they don't have an 11 available at KEH.com. But this is an optical viewfinder, which did still zoom as the lens zoomed, and it was actually reasonably accurate, as I recall. So that's definitely in contention. It does have a built-in flash. It's got a hot shoe. And I could get one in brand new condition for $307, or I could get an ugly one for $197. And ugly sounds like
you're
the
seeing
ticket.
BN and you think that's brand new. I hate to break it to you, but
bargain.
that stands for bargain.
It's here in really small text.
Beat to hell.
It's gonna not be in great shape.
Do it.
But it is only $307.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable.
I think it's a kind of a character builder for you to have a junker.
I think that if I'm going to do this, I don't want something in mint condition. But I was basically biting my tongue a little while you were talking about Sigma DPs because I've never used one, never really even touched them because we only brought them in special order back at the camera store. But the big thing is, what would I use this for? And I really think it would be like a landscape kind of camera because it's very deliberate. Battery life's really bad. So the Quattros are out for me, but they've got a DP1 Merrill here with a trio of 15 megapixel sensors in a Foveon pattern for only $542 It is a bargain, so it's not going to be in great shape. But that's a 28 millimeter equivalent lens, f2.8,
lens.
which is a very good lens. It was available in Micro Four Thirds and E-mount. I remember that one. That might be the ticket. Again, I remember it was like 30 shots to a charge on that battery.
Yeah,
but
terrible.
The big thing that's got me thinking this might be worthwhile is back when we reviewed it, you could only use Sigma's software, but now through firmware, this thing shoots DNGs, baby. I'm going to just drop them into Capture One, go to town. So that is one I'm very excited.
Magic. I wonder if they lose their magic, though, with that conversion. I don't know. I mean, you'll find out.
Finally, I've never owned a super zoom. I've barely used a super zoom. I think it might be fun to have a small camera with real telephoto. And I know primarily when we talk about fixed lens cameras, we're thinking itty bitty. But that brought me to, so right now there is a like new minus Sony RX10 II, and this was the last Sony camera that used the 24 to 200 2.8 constant. So very good for video because I could zoom through it. I really considered this kind of a camcorder at the time when it first came out, but I never actually took a picture with it. But we got
but you've used it. You've used it quite a bit, and you've advocated for this camera a lot.
I would love to see a new version of it, but I want to know, is this misguided? Because I've been saying this now for a very long time, that we need a new one. It's a hideous camera.
Right. These are all of these are like from the side. I'm looking at it even with the lens compressed. This thing just looks like a bad piece of meat.
It's actually one of the nicer.
It screams dad camera, no question. Like this is something that you would bring to an outdoor soccer game and no one would respect you. But it does look like a pretty flexible. And the only other one that I'm looking at here is there's an FZ1000 version 2 available from Panasonic.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah, with a massive zoom range on that one, because that was a 24 to 600 equivalent, if memory serves. Again, with a Type 1 sensor.
How did they somehow make this uglier?
Oh, Panasonic makes
honestly though, Nikon Coolpix is just still uglier, I think. The older ones, but
the super zooms. Yeah, they're all ugly cameras.
They're all trash. Even the Leicas are gross. Like they're all gross.
So I'm going to leave this. I'm going to pull a Jaron here, and I'm going to leave it to you two. Which one do you think I should go with of these 4 potential options? Canon G10, Sigma DP1 Merrill, Sony CyberShot RX10 II, or a Panasonic FZ1000 version 2?
I don't know.
I'm going to say that I don't think you should get a Canon or a Sony because Chris and I are getting Canon and Sonys.
Yeah.
Okay. So like you gotta go somewhere else. So either the Sigma or the Panasonic. And boy, this
a fixed ultra or a fixed wide angle or an extreme telephoto.
I think just to be contrarian, you using the type of camera that Chris says there's no such thing as a good one sounds good to me.
So are we talking super zoom then? Am I going to be zooming?
You're going to saddle this dude with a super zoom? I mean, it changes what you're going to shoot. Because like the RX one, like Jaron, you're going to shoot street. You're going to shoot street. That's really what that camera's for, right?
That's what
if you go quattro, that's almost a dedicated landscape.
It's a landscape camera for me. Yeah.
G5X is just a great do everything camera. That 24 to 100, perfect focal length, just great little thing. I don't know what you're going to do. Super zoom? Like, are you going to shoot wildlife, Jordan? Like, what are you going to shoot?
I don't know. I would, because I've never used one photographically, and this would be a photo camera for me. I will not be flicking this thing into video mode for my impressions.
Well, we can't say where we're going for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
The rest of this year has some travel associated with it.
Right.
But you're not doing a lot of it, Jordan, because you've got other stuff going on. So you might end up doing this at home.
Yeah.
In Calgary.
Okay.
So like, what would you shoot in Calgary? Birds in your backyard? Your child at the skate park?
Boring birds, stupid corvids that are apparently smart.
Take a TG7 into the shower. That's what I think you should do.
Okay. Make a decision, guys. You're making this call for me.
It's your choice.
DP1 or FZ1002. What's it going to be?
I think you should make the final call. You've heard our arguments.
You got to pick. Yeah.
I'm taking a Sigma DP1 Merrill. I want to shoot something unlike anything I've ever used before.
Perfect.
Is my decision. Put in basket. Order.
You'll love it.
Here is my credit card number, KEH.
On it.
All right, so our final
shot.
choices here are Canon G5X for Chris. The Jordan is getting the Lumix DMC FZ1000.
DP1 Merrill. DP1 Merrill.
I'm sorry. Like Sigma DP1.
I thought that was such a decisive decision there. All right.
Super zoom for Jordan.
I heard your choice, and I elected to ignore it. And then I'm going to take this.
Actually,
I'm going to take the Sony RX1, and I'm also going to get the FDA V1 optical viewfinder with it.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, no, we can get accessories. Oh.
Do you want one?
Man, I got to find myself a 28 mil.
You need to find yourself a spare battery.
Yes. Oh, no. Don't worry.
Okay.
But that was fun, gang.
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to hear from the viewers and the listeners. Did we pick the cameras you thought we were going to pick? And also, none of you try and snipe these out from underneath us. I'm going to try and get these in before I publish this podcast.
Yeah, we're going to order this before it. Yes,
because I have a feeling some of you would do that, and there aren't very many. So I'm going to put this order in today as we're recording this. That way, that doesn't happen. I have one more thing I want to bring up, other than the fact I'm extremely disappointed neither of you is going to let me get the Minilux.
Yeah, you can do that on your own time,
and I probably will. I was sitting around yesterday after work, and something just struck me, and I'm like, "Gosh,
oh, did it hurt?"
I really, really miss shooting the ultra wide panoramic thing. Like I tried it with an anamorphic lens and it didn't really scratch the itch.
Okay.
I wasn't happy with what I was doing. So then I remembered, man, I really like the Fujifilm TX1. Like I just like how it looks. And so I started reading again on it and like looking at pictures, and I stumbled across a blog on Fuji Love, and I was like, oh man, this author is like, yeah, this made me feel like, this is what got me back into taking pictures again. This makes me so happy or whatever. And I went out on Threads and I'm like, I think I want one. And then David Amell, linked to that story that I had just read. Turns out David Amell's the one who wrote it, and I didn't even realize it. I was just like, oh, crap, that's embarrassing for me, David. And he's like, it is embarrassing for you. And then he called me and was like, do you want to borrow one of my 3?
Oh, jeez.
Because he has an X-Pan and then 2 TX1s.
That's obscene.
And I'm like, yeah, actually, I think I would like to borrow one because I can't get to Japan to buy one. You can buy them in the US, but they're really uncommon because they weren't sold here. The X-Pan was sold everywhere except Japan, and the TX1 was sold in Japan. I think I'm going to try and acquire one the next time I'm in Japan, which probably won't be until next year. But I'd like to play with one first to make sure. And I've got some lovely Provia. I've got that Provia 400 I could shoot on it. I think that would be a good place to do that. Like shoot that really old film on there that has been lovely and kept in a freezer for me. So that's just something that I wanted to bring up is like, as much as we talk about these cool little digital point and shoots, cameras like the TX1 and the X-Pan, they just don't make them anymore.
No.
And they're so cool. The concept of the TX1 X-Pan is so cool.
Right,
Chris?
Yeah.
Isn't it a neat camera?
Yeah, nah, sure. They're beautifully designed. I just, ultra wide, like the double wide doesn't really blow my mind away, but like, it was fun. Like I liked it on the GFX 100 RF. I'd rather
Which they just took the idea from the TX1 and put it in there.
But then I'd rather just shoot on the GFX 100 RF.
Jordan, are you going to be?
I'm excited to see what you produce. I've always wanted to shoot with one of these. I mucked around with them in the store. Actually, I did take the Hasselblad out and shoot one roll of film through it, like back when I first started at the shop. But I haven't had much experience with them. So I'm very curious what you come up with. And I might take a couple shots if I see you on a trip while you're rocking this bad boy. So I say go yonder, Jaron. This film experiment has clearly been warming your heart, and you should pursue this dragon. Yes,
I'm shooting a lot.
Chase it.
Lately,
Chase it.
I think if I were you, And like you do seem to listen to my analog recommendations. If I were you, I would say forget the Mini Lux. That's a stupid, frivolous family camera. And the T2 has just become like such a influencer, super price camera now. No way. If I were you, I would get myself an old school Contax G1 or G2. I think the prices are still pretty reasonable.
I think there's one on
autofocusing camera with interchangeable lenses, super sexy, gorgeous lenses, still compact and small, great manual controls. Yeah, there you go.
Wow,
yeah.
It's a bargain, and it's $1,800.
Yep. A G2?
A G2.
Yeah. What about a G1? Anyways,
is this a rangefinder?
Interchangeable lenses. What? Yeah, no, it's an autofocusing point and shoot, I guess you would say. Yeah.
So the Contax G1 is described as a rangefinder.
Yeah, no, it's rangefinder style.
This one's affordable. It's $627.
Yeah.
And
one of my favorite.
What about this?
They're just gorgeous. Like the lenses are sharp. They're beautifully designed. Like they're beautifully machined. They look amazing. One of my favorite, I would say, one of my most influential photographers that had a huge back to me, Dave Beckerman, who's sadly no longer with us, New York photographer. He shot G1s and G2s. Beautiful work. Like just gorgeous.
So I could get that and a 90 f2.8 for the G series.
You get a whole bunch of lenses. They're so good.
You know what you're doing here is I'm just going to add this to the order.
Yeah, just plug onto cart. Yeah.
I'll see if I like it.
See how easy that was?
But I'm just having a really good time. And you know what? I will say this. This is probably because Chris encouraged me to take pictures again that I'm enjoying photography again.
And look how much you shoot now.
I shoot a lot. I shot 4 rolls of film this past weekend. I went back out to Cannon Beach, and I was shooting with some friends who were visiting with their 2-year-old, and I got a lot of really cute pictures. I think, anyway. I was shooting mostly with the FM2 and the 135-2.8. I was having a really good time with that camera. It makes me realize that the cameras I have been using are very difficult to use. In contrast, I bet I'm going to get a lot more keepers now that my camera is like not actively fighting me. So there you go. That was sort of an add-on to the vintage thing. What have you guys been up to?
I've been recommending cameras to you. That's what I've been up to.
Yes, and
that's about it. I don't know.
You guys went camping.
We went camping. Yeah. I don't know. That was such a blur. I think didn't we like come back from camping and do a podcast right away? And my brain's shut. I can't remember. Yeah.
You guys are on the Verge cast this week.
Oh yes, there you go. We did that. I don't even
next
remember.
Tuesday that'll be up, I believe.
Next Tuesday or like today.
Calgary Stampede last night with our families.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because I have been bemoaning the experience of going to the Stampede for years and years and years.
Your entire life. Just as long as you've been bemoaning shopping. And I have to
I think like I had an awesome time when I was like 19. But yeah, it's definitely not my favorite thing. And I actually had a really nice time. I mean, it wasn't scorching hot and we had some time. I had a very pleasant time. And the big thing is I'm always like, well, I should eat some like Western influenced food when I was there. Never again. Empanadas, and I got some chickpea curry, and it was great. So the ticket is just not to try and eat the garbage overpriced barbecue.
Right, which has a huge lineup.
Yeah, or like bad hot dogs or whatever. So yes, I've cracked the code on the Calgary Stampede and had a really nice time. So it's possible. I am here to report. And they also have a giant, like, cheap arcade in the basement now. It's like 25 cents for old, like, play, Killer Instinct or something like that. And I didn't get a chance to check it out. So I might have to go in there and toss some quarters. Because you could spend, like, $10 and spend an hour there. Sounds great.
Can you even find quarters nowadays? Like, where do you find a quarter? I don't know how that works
I go to the machine and it makes a jingle jangle sound when they drop out.
Oh.
Okay.
Hey, how about you, Jaron? Another machine to get cash out. Ugh.
I briefly
Everything is awful with Chris. No matter
Chris,
what.
Why would you tech support?
Just be happy. I went. It was 4th of July, so we had a long weekend, and I had friends in town. As I mentioned, they brought their 2-year-old, and we went to Cannon Beach on the 5th of July, which in retrospect sounds like a terrible decision. Like it was crowded for sure, but I found parking. We both found parking. We had a lovely dinner at my favorite fish market there. We went to the beach and it wasn't that crowded. We saw puffins. Did you know that there are puffins on that rock, on Haystack Rock? There's only like 100.
No.
They're rare. They have actually people out there who work for like Cannon Beach, and they bring out like binoculars and telescopes so that you can like look at the rock and see stuff.
That's nice.
They tell you about the birds. It's really nice. Then we went to Hood River and did You Pick Cherries yesterday, and we got like 8 pounds of Rainiers and Black Pearl cherries.
So good.
For like $30.
What are you gonna make with that?
Poo, because I ate them already. They gone. I ate them.
All right.
Just ate them straight. Yeah, that was it. That's been my thing. And then I shot a lot of rolls of film, and I shot a lot with the X100. So I'm pretty happy. Let's get into some tech support.
Somebody else who shoots an X100.
I will say that since we've done one of these, people really liked your little rant video, Chris. That continues to do well. So again, great job on the
GM5.
Yeah, so you did good. Yeah, people like that. We need to talk more about cameras we love from the past. I think people enjoy those. But we're gonna start this with a speak pipe from Claire.
Hi guys, I have a bit of a niche problem and wanted some advice. I'm shooting with an X100 primarily because I love using film simulations. Whilst I have Capture One and love to use it, with my Fujifilm photos I choose to edit them exclusively in Fujifilm X-Raw Studio. They're clunky, very limited editing software. The reason I do this is because its film simulations are 1-to-1, and it lets me easily use tools like Color Chrome FX. I'm generally very happy with the results I get in this software. However, there are some times where I would like to make more specific tweaks, only possible in Capture One. Whilst Capture One has film simulation profiles, the results, in my opinion, aren't as pleasing as the ones I get in X-Raw Studio. I have a potential solution in my mind, but I wanted to ask you folks if it's a good idea. What I'm thinking of doing is editing in X-Raw Studio, and when finer tweaks are needed, exporting from X-Raw Studio in 16-bit TIFF, importing the TIFF files into Capture One, and making final edits on that. Do you think the TIFF files have enough latitude for things like slight color editing, or do you think I would be better off editing those files in RAW on Capture One, cutting out X-Raw Studio entirely? I don't have a problem with the file sizes of TIFF, or the very time-consuming nature of this workflow. I was just wondering what you guys would think would be a better option for producing a good end result. Hope you all have a good day. Bye.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll work just fine. Again, you've already stated you don't have a problem with the file sizes or the extra time that it's going to take. But I'll often export into 16-bit TIFF, especially if it's like, just a situation where the software is weird and I don't want to have to use proprietary software, but I'm forced to because it's a brand new camera. I will often use it, open it up. We're always playing with review samples where you don't have support right away, except usually buy some beta software the manufacturer makes. And it's often terrible software to use. So yeah, I will save as a 16-bit TIFF. You'll still retain a lot of that color information, that ability to push and pull stuff, move it into, in my case, Lightroom, and do that. Another option is you could ditch Capture One and go Lightroom, because they actually do have support for Fujifilm film simulations, which are quite close to the actual software, the X-Raw Studio.
Yeah, I just want to add a quick disclaimer there, which is converting to a TIFF, you will lose some dynamic range because it is a debayed image at that point. So I would kind of treat it in two ways. So if you're doing something where you want to maximize the dynamic range, so you've got a very underexposed image to protect the highlights and you want to push those, then I would just do that entirely through a Capture One workflow. But if it's something where you're not going to have to push things, more than a couple stops in either direction, then, and you can spare the time, absolutely convert to TIFF and you'll get those nice natural film simulation modes. I can't speak to Adobe's version of the film simulations because I don't use Adobe. I use Capture One because it's pretty rad. Have you tried just giving it a click and see how they compare?
I mean, I use Lightroom, but I'm not a big film simulation person myself. I tend to want to have a more clean raw file and then just edit it, or I keep it out of camera. But yes, they do. You can get Fujifilm simulation support for Lightroom if you want.
Jerbear, have you tried?
No, I didn't realize you could do that. I've only been
Claire,
shooting Fujifilm for a little while.
Claire, you might also be able to. I mean, the other option is you could hunt for preset packs that you like. But I mean, there is a lot of testing and finding stuff, and then you can purchase said preset packs for Capture One. You might find something that mimics those very closely. I'm sure somebody else has had the same issue as you and then strive to try to fix that. So that might be an option too.
All right, the next one is an email from Sean. I am a music teacher, but I do a lot of video work for school. When filming our concerts, I usually use 4 to 5 cameras, Nikon mirrorless, various models, to capture different angles. As I am involved in the concert and the cameras are generally unmanned, I tend to set to auto ISO and auto white balance. My problem is that as lighting states change, depending on how each shot is framed, the white balance ends up quite different, and the shots don't blend well in the final edit. My question is, should I manually white balance instead? But if I do, how do I judge the white balance for very blue lighting one moment versus very warm lighting another, as I won't be able to set each camera between each performance? Or does this matter? Thanks for the podcast. I listen every week. You're welcome, Sean. And this is a problem of manning 5 cameras by yourself.
Yes. So I have done quite a bit of live music recording, and I do have a suggestion for that. If you have no idea what the general tone of the lighting is going to be, set it to daylight. And if the stage managers are planning to get like a very warm look or very blue look, you want to actually represent that in the video that you're capturing. It's a creative choice that they're making. However, sometimes just the light in the environment is going to be more warm or cool. And if you can preset that beforehand, it's going to get you a little bit more flexibility in post. Exposure is extremely difficult because if you set it to auto white balance and suddenly it gets very dark for a moodier tune, and then suddenly they crank the lights, it's going to be blown out for a little bit. And the exposure is not going to match based on whatever the background is. I know it's going to be a pain, but I would shoot log in this situation, and that'll give you the headroom to hopefully make up for those big exposure adjustments there, and just lock it to your base ISO if at all possible. And yes, sometimes it's going to blow out, sometimes it'll be a little bit underexposed, but at least all your cameras will then match. If you set that up shot to shot, you can apply a base adjustment to everything because you don't want to be curving your white balance and exposure throughout the entire concert across 5 cameras. That's going to be a nightmare. So that would be my suggestion.
So you're saying shoot log with manual white balance? And then
shoot log with manual white balance and a set ISO. As soon as you put it to auto ISO, based on your background, exposure is going to be fluctuating. You want to be able to apply the same adjustment to all the cameras consistently throughout.
That is a perfectly reasonable suggestion. I hope all of his cameras shoot log.
Yes. Fingers crossed. If not, whatever is the flattest profile available.
Yeah, the flattest profile.
All right. Next one is from Seth Legary. Hi, Chris, Jordan, and Jaron. I recently purchased the shockingly decent Voigtlander 29mm f/0.8, and, as I was told to expect, I get no increase in exposure past f1 or so. However, I am able to see by eye, that the projected image is brighter at f.8. Why can't my camera sense this extra light? And could this be related to why some lenses show different vignette on Sony versus Nikon, as reported by Dustin Abbott? Thanks for any insight you might have.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say because I've not played with that particular lens. But I guess what I would say is often when you see these very bright apertures, although the aperture itself is opening up physically wider and you are changing your depth of field, light transmission is not often going to be portrayed the way it's portrayed, right? And that's why, for example, Cinema Glass will have T-stops, which are guaranteed values for light transmission, even though the aperture itself can go wider than that. Because, like as you open up a lens to extremes like this, you don't always get extra light transmission. You say that you're seeing it by eye brighter. That's interesting. I mean, your camera sensor should, if there's more light, adjust for that. It could just be that the vignetting is canceling that out. But I mean, I would have to play with it more to really see. But I would say that when you get to those extreme apertures, light transmission is usually going to be the same or very similar to the point where it's not perceptible.
I feel like he may have posted this on Reddit too, and he's getting similar answers.
One other thing I might mention is if you're using evaluative metering where it's looking at the entire frame and the center's getting brighter, but the corners are vignetting, that could definitely lead to the camera being like, we're seeing no overall increase in light, even though the center's getting brighter. So maybe just use a spot meter in that situation to make sure that you're metering for the brightest part of the image when you're using, because I'm sure the vignetting on that thing is awful.
Or I wouldn't bother. I mean, so it gets a little brighter, you're going to be fine, right? It's not going to blow anything out. This difference has got to be so minor. So minor.
Sorry if that wasn't the answer. We don't know.
I don't have one here.
Yeah, we don't have one.
I think Seth is maybe more thinking about this in terms of not so much an issue as just like interesting information, right? Like why and how and what, and trying to explain what's going on here.
Sure. All right. Next one is a comment on YouTube from Zakate96 or Zakate if you don't want to say it cool.
It's
Hello.
Sergio, actually.
I'm Sergio from Costa Rica, longtime viewer. I shoot concerts professionally, but what I really love is documentary. I have a Canon R5 II. That's my professional, all-capable body. However, lately I've been in a spiral of looking for different shooting experiences.
Sounds like Jaron.
Yeah, man. You and I both. I have tried film, the Nikon FZ, a full-spectrum converted camera, a old Sony digital Mavica MPEG movie camera. Then, by mistake and regretfully, I looked at the Leica M series and got interested in manual focusing rangefinder experience. No! Love the idea. That was my no. I was like, don't do it.
Totally do it.
I think you love your Bessa.
I do.
And then you and Jared should form an anonymous society where you all meet together in a school gymnasium and talk about your issues.
Yeah, on like folding chairs in a circle. Love the
with
idea.
some coffee.
To manually focus an image using that split image, it might take might make the image feel more handcrafted. But then it got me wondering, if there are cheaper DSLRs with split prism as my Canon AE1, it looks like there are none, and it got me wondering, why is that? Additionally, I think if Canon or Nikon would release a smallish full-frame retro-inspired camera with today's technology, but also with the manual option of focusing with a split prism, it would be a killer camera that would compete with Fuji, OM, and even Leicas. Don't know if this is even possible. I listen to the podcast religiously every time I edit. Keep up with the great work. Best regards. Yeah, why don't people do cool stuff with cameras anymore?
Well, they do, but I mean, look. So yeah, you're doing the right thing, which is you're not, Sergio. You're crazy, and you should stop. But you're trying to have different experiences. You're trying to shoot different photography, not for image quality, because the shooting experience is different. And Leica M rangefinders are super fun. Your double image, not a split prism, but like a split image that you're trying to line up is a really cool way to manually focus using triangulation. It's neat. Classic SLRs use split prisms because they were manual focus only. And this is, it's not really a split image, but you can see where the split prism off-centers the image when it's out of focus and then lines it up side to side. So it's effectively a similar experience. And it's fun. The reason why DSLRs don't have that is because they don't need to. I mean, it's primitive technology and they got rid of it. DSLRs can actually manually focus off the sensor using indicators, usually LED, but sometimes they're not. Even DSLRs would give you the red light, green light. It's just a way of saying, yeah, the light's focused on the sensor properly. Where your lens is focused, you get a green light. It's just more accurate and easier and less obtrusive than having like a split prism in the middle. And then you had companies like Fujifilm experiment with trying to do digital split prisms and digital micro prisms because it's fun, trying to give you that enhanced experience. So you could look into some of those Fujifilm cameras. That whole trend didn't last very long. I can't remember, Jerome, but I think it was like 2 cameras that tried it, and then they're like, forget this, nobody cares.
It's still there. It's just nobody uses it.
Is it buried? I don't know. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, shooting experience, fun.
Anything to add, Jordan?
No, I was going to mention the Fuji split, the digital split prism thing. But yeah, just go grab an X Pro 2, cheap used, and play with that and see if that tickles that itch.
Tickles that itch. Next one's an email from Joe.
Scratches the itch,
buying cameras,
tickles the
Sergio.
tummy. I don't know.
Buying. Not
I'm mixing metaphors.
Scratch that itch. Nobody tickles it. Stop buying cameras, Sergio.
Anyway, Joe emailed, "Hey there, PetaPixel Pros. Joe from Ohio here. When I'm not shooting analog, I'm a Sony wildlife shooter, mostly small birds where I need all the reach I can get. I currently use an A6400 in the Sigma 150-600 from your recommendation. I love it. I would like to make an upgrade for better subject detection performance and, of course, some more resolution for croppability along the way. However, the A6700 is essentially the same resolution, and even all the way up to the A7R5, it's still giving the same pixel density on target. My question is, why hasn't Sony made a higher resolution APS-C body? With other APS-C systems like the Canon R7 at 32.5 and the Fuji X-T5 at 40.2, why has Sony decided to sit and stay at 26? It's hard to justify an upgrade for only subject to tech performance, and the only way to get more pixels on target at the moment is with a teleconverter, which Sony won't even let me do with Sigma lenses.
Sure.
Just curious if you have any insight, and if you think they might make a jump to catch up with the other systems in resolution. Thanks, guys. Love the podcast, and I'm happy to be a member. Woo!
Woo! Thank you.
That's a great question. I don't know what to tell you. Because, I was kind of surprised by that, too, that Sony never really bothered to put in, especially with Fujifilm rocking that 40 for a long time and doing really well with it. Why hasn't Sony upgraded their APS-C sensors? And I don't know if we're going to see that. I think we might see new full-frame cameras. That would be my guess, but I don't know if we're going to see an upgraded APS-C. But, I don't know what to tell you.
Sony's entire marketing has been full-frame is better. So by making APS-C more appealing, they undermine their own strategy.
I suppose.
Well, and we have to remember there's precedent for this because Fujifilm had the 26 megapixel chip, very similar to what we see in the 6700 for years before Sony implemented it with the FX30 and A6700. I do wonder if there's some kind of agreement between Sony and Fujifilm that like, hey, look, because they're exclusively APS-C, they want the best APS-C sensors out there. And maybe after time has passed, Sony will look at them as well. But if you want cutting edge APS-C sensors, it's Fujifilm right now.
All right. Next one is a speak pipe from Cameron Ricks.
Hello, Chris, Jordan, and Jaron. Love the show. Appreciate all that you guys do. You guys make great content. 2 questions for you guys. One, why is it that smaller sensors deal with worse dynamic range? I get the differences in field of view and perceived abilities as far as noise goes, but I don't understand the difference with dynamic range. My thought being an APS-C lens that's 20 megapixels and a full-frame sensor that's 45 megapixels have pixels in theory that are about the same size individually. So what is it about the full-frame sensor that makes it better, so to speak, as far as dynamic range goes? And same across all the different sizes. So just curious. Would love your input. Thanks, guys.
Oh, Jordan, you love equivalency.
Do I ever? Yeah, I can certainly take this. I mean, essentially, the way that we talk about dynamic range at this point, a lot of these cameras will have a highlight clipping point. And then if you want to maximize dynamic range on that sensor, you're bringing up the shadows in your raw file to get that extra dynamic range. And the smaller sensor, because you're magnifying that quite a bit more, will have more visible noise when you're doing that. Now, again, that's looking at the total image. If you were to crop these into 1-to-1, and you're saying like an R5 versus a 20 megapixel APS-C, noise levels will actually be quite similar. But because we're looking at the total image on that, the full-frame sensor is going to look less noisy, giving it the appearance of one additional stop of usable shadow information on it, so more dynamic range on that. The other difference with this is just the way some sensors are made to saturate at different points. So you've got something amazing like Nikon 64 ISOs. That can actually absorb a little bit more light before it clips. And that is also going to give you more dynamic range. You can apply more light. Your shadows, again, become less noisy when you do that, so more dynamic range by extension. And we're just not seeing a lot of APS-C sensors with those higher saturation points. The closest thing would be, again, that awesome Fuji 40 megapixel sensor out there, which can actually take a fair amount of light. But that's why you're really seeing that difference. And when people talk about dynamic range, they're referring to at what point the noise becomes essentially unusable, as opposed to recovering usable detail in the shadows.
All right. Next one is a speak pipe from Zap.
We're just trucking through this week. Look at us.
We need to.
Hi, PetaPixel crew. I am Zap. I love the show. And I want y'all to answer the question that I think every single one of us has had in our minds the first time that we stared into a camera lens. And then we let go of it. Because since no one else seemed to think it was worth talking about, we assumed it would be too silly to ask. Now, all that lead up is to ask, how on Earth does tightening the aperture of a lens not shrink the field of view?
So
You can hear the lap slap.
yeah, I mean that would, I guess, if you thought about light coming through your lens as like a straight cylinder of light, then that would make sense. If I cut down to a smaller thing, am I not getting a smaller field of view?
Like
But
if you're
light's
looking
not
through a
doing that.
pinhole, same idea. Like you would see your
Light
field
is-
of view. It's not doing
Light
that.
is messy as hell, Zap. It's coming in from all angles. It's very misbehaved. You got it going through all different directions. So the fact of the matter is, no matter how large or small your aperture is, light will go at more acute angles and still reach the full sensor. So you're going to get the same field of view. Whatever the lens is focusing on, that's what you're going to get. Really, the tighter apertures is really going to change your depth of field. You're going to throw away a lot of that misbehaved light when you and again, this is oversimplified, but when you close that aperture down tight, you're blocking a lot of that misbehaved light. And a lot of that misbehaved light is going to be out of focus from the focus point that the lens is focused on, which is kind of why when we go to a wider aperture, we get all of this like unfocused light and misbehaved light. We get a lot more light, but a lot of it is out of focus. That's why you get shallower depth of field at those wider apertures. And when you close that aperture down tighter, you're only allowing through the light that's more focused through the lens, and all that misbehaved light that's out of focus and scattered is getting blocked. That's why you get more depth of field. Everything becomes more in focus. That's also why you lose a ton of light. But the actual amount of light where it's coming, it's not the amount. The actual light angles, they're still the same. You're going to get photons covering the entire sensor, whether that aperture is open, wide, or tight. It's always going through and bending through at those angles to reach the sides of the sensor. So field of view stays the same.
I always explain this to my kid as just your eyes. When you squint, because you want to see something closer in more detail, your field of view doesn't change. Your lens is doing the exact same thing.
Or walking out of a basement into the backyard, your field of view doesn't change either. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Just more or less light and how much of that light is unfocused and how much of that light is focused.
Last one is an email from Roshan. Hey guys, Roshan here from New Zealand. I only recently discovered the podcast. I'm enjoying it thoroughly. I have a question about the Sigma I series lenses. I know that a lot of Sigma's newer lenses haven't been released in Nikon Z mount, and I was wondering if you think Sigma would release the I series lenses in any other mounts. I have a Nikon ZFC, and I know any of the silver and black mounts would look gorgeous on it. I also thought about buying the Megadapt Sony E to Nikon Z mount adapter as an option. Have you ever experienced using that, and would it be worth it? Thanks. I'll answer the first one of these before Jordan talks about the adapter he's got in his hands. This is not a Sigma. We have to say this all the time. Sigma doesn't choose to not put this on Nikon. It's just like Sigma and Tamron don't choose to offer their full frame lenses on Canon RF mount. These are the camera makers essentially saying, if you do it, we're going to sue you. So you have to wait for us to come to an agreement. And I think this is my tinfoil hat theory. Tamron helps manufacture several of the Nikon lenses, and as part of that agreement, Tamron was like, we don't want you putting our competitor on Nikon Z mount. We want to be on the only third-party lens in Japan on Z mount. Yeah, which is frustrating because Viltrox is on there, so it's like Tamron didn't even think about them. Wasn't in the contract.
We don't know if that's true or not. It seems reasonable. And when you ask,
can't prove it.
What I will say is when you ask either company's representatives, they will say, "Oh, it's the other guys." So the answer is who knows?
There's just no reason why Kazuto-san would say, "No, I don't want to make
more money."
Of course not. Yeah.
And the second thing, Jordan.
Yeah, so I find it really interesting that we're seeing these E to Z mount adapters because the flange mount does work, and I figured everybody would be like, sweet, we can get those dope Sony G Masters on here, but everybody that I'm hearing from, it seems like they're mostly used to adapt some of the great third-party lenses in E-mount over to Z. And so far things look pretty good, but we are going to be going out doing some extensive testing.
Yes.
At request, there will be some running tests as well to see how these adapters will hold up to the most stringent autofocus requirements in the world, which is a middle-aged man running through a flat surface.
Not just a middle-aged man, but a middle-aged Jordan.
That's right. Now, my only thing, we don't have any of the I-series lenses available to us, so I might pop by the camera store and grab a couple for this specific request, because, yes, these would be awesome on a ZF. Just aesthetically, they'd make a ton of sense.
as a note right now, the most recent Z8 update borked all third-party attachments, including the adapters. So
we're not updating.
We're not going to update, but if you're planning on doing this, you shouldn't update until we get like confirmation from like Viltrox and Megadapt. Can you even? Is that firmware upgradable, Jordan? Is there a USB? Is this too thin for a USB-C port? Isn't it? That little adapter you've got.
Check.
I'm fairly certain that it's just going to require a whole new version.
Well,
yeah, I bet you're going to have to slap it on to some sort of dock or something because there's lots of contacts and I don't see a USB port on this sucker.
Yeah, so just be careful of that. That's worth. We are.
Look at this beautiful machining.
All right, last thing. Feel good story of the week.
Great story.
I've been holding on to this one. We actually had to follow up a bunch of things, but it turns out that if you take 100,000 photos with the Fujifilm X Pro 3, you will get a video game or movie-like credit roll sequence that says essentially, "Thanks for shooting. Here's all the people that designed this camera." Here's why this probably did not go discovered until recently. There are people at Fujifilm who did not know this happened. And the reason is twofold. This isn't necessarily a camera you're firing off tons of photos with. 100,000 pictures is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So it takes a lot to get there. But also, unfortunately, one of the major complaints with the X Pro 3 is this little wire strip that goes between the LCD on the back that flips down and into the body, and that little strip of wires will break, and so the screen doesn't work.
Right.
So there are people who probably use the heck out of their X Pro 3s, the most
but they got
avid
a torn
users,
ribbon cable,
who the ribbon cable has been long since destroyed, and they got the credit roll but never saw it because the screen wasn't working. So this is the first documented case.
I think it's charming as all hell, and it's something that really I think Fujifilm will be one of the few companies to do. But I want to make a short film where a wedding photographer is like, the bride and groom are about to do the first kiss, and then it's like, click, you have taken 100,000 photos, and it starts a credit roll on that.
No, why?
Well, actually, I mean, on that note, the credits roll by really quick, so it could just be that people took their 100,000th photo, but they had it up to their eye. They take their 100,000th photo. They're looking around on the street. They're going, or they instinctually turn their camera off, and they've completely missed this credit roll. So
it's one of the only cameras because it has that weird design where you're basically encouraged to keep the LCD closed on it as well as part of the design decision. So what a weird camera model to implement this again, adorable and very charming feature.
But now everybody's going to start blowing off their XT4s and XT2s.
See if they can
see if they have it too.
Like, do I get this as well? Like, let's see. I'm at 90,000. Let's just fire
So how
off
many
all
other
that
hidden Easter eggs has Fujifilm put in their cameras? We don't know, but here's what they said. Fujifilm has intentionally set this hidden feature, which appears when certain conditions are met. We wanted to show our appreciation to our users for cherishing the camera for a long time. We are delighted to hear positive feedback from those who have discovered the message. So very cute.
It's a great story.
Love it. I'm glad it didn't happen while he was trying to do. I don't think it locks the camera. I think it just plays.
Oh, I'm sure it doesn't. That would be a nightmarish mistake. But
I bet you so many people missed it completely.
I think this is a good TikTok short.
At any rate, that's the show this week. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.
All right, bye. See you soon.